I have hit go live, and I am about to hit record. I have now hit record. Ah, record has been hit. And let's see. The marker didn't fucking go where I wanted it to. Thank you. Thank you, Adobe.
Let me try.
It works differently when you're recording.
Oh, I pressed it, and it went exactly where the blue arrow was.
That's no. So, but it went above the timeline, I assume, across all the tracks.
Yeah, there's a dotted line across the.
There is
whole
another kind of marker that is inside of a track and will follow that track, and it looks like you can only apply those to tracks that already exist before you hit record, and not a track that is actively recording, which is what I wanted.
I have selected the track. It is highlighted. I'm pressing M and nothing's happening. But if I click outside of the tracks,
motherfucker. I see what's going on. Anyway, I wish Adobe had documented this. They could really use a product manager. It's Thursday, October 5th, 2023. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, we are reviewing the Warwick Applefest 2023. So, I don't have an opening bit about biking. Like, nothing weird happened, nothing squirrely. But I spent my lunch hanging out in Bryant Park. And do you know what's going on in Bryant Park right now?
It's springtime. There should be a movie screen up.
So they have torn up all the grass and are already putting the skating rink together.
Oh, right.
Yep. They are the skating rink.
I was like, oh, it's spring. It's like, no, it's not. It's spring. They should be.
Yep. So they have already gotten about halfway through building the skating rink and the winter Christmas village in Bryant Park. So as a result, there's like nowhere to sit because the whole park is fucked up with this construction and all this nonsense. Yep. Meanwhile, it was 78 degrees and sunny. So everyone in Midtown was trying to hang out in Bryant Park like you would. And it was packed to the point that it was like a PAX Expo hall pre-COVID. Like people trying to get into the park and then like failing and nonsense and chaos. But I guess what stuck out to me is that I feel like places like New York City, whatever part of the bowels of New York City's government is responsible for planning the day the Christmas village starts getting built.
It's the Parks Department.
Yes. At no point has considered whether or not that day should move based on climate change and the fact that it's not going to be cold enough for that skating rink to work probably for a month or two. It's going to be built.
You would be actually shocked at the high temperatures that a skating rink can operate at. Obviously it takes more energy for the cooling system, right?
Well, but also it's wet ice, which like, yes, technically you can skate on it, and I guess that's fine if it's, public skating in New York when really it's just a bunch of tourists waddling around.
I think I had a thing of the day once about the company that does portable skating rinks. Yep. They set one up at like a ballroom at like, Georgia University, right?
But more importantly,
like State, whatever.
They've taken up a huge percentage of the park with the Christmas village and the shopping nonsense now at a time when the weather is going to be nice and people want to hang out in the park on the grass for at least another month or two, the way things are going. So I got to figure.
This village opens. When does it open?
It's mostly built. Like a bunch of the huts are fully functional and there's merchandise in them already.
I'm just looking at the Parks Department website to see like the day that it's supposed to start.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's like if they're going to, open it on a certain day, then it's like obviously you have to start building it far enough in advance that it's ready on that day.
Yep, but it is like
I don't know what the day is.
Surprisingly close to being done based on the work they're doing, meaning the park is basically useless to people now until Christmas.
I mean, usually that thing is still open in like early January too, right?
Yeah. If you want some really overpriced stuff and some actually pretty good food. The food there is actually... Every year, the only complaint I have about the food is that there are very long lines to get food at it, and the food tends to take a while. But
there we go, Bryant Park event.
The food in there tends to be pretty good, and I feel at least I can, if it's going to be open early, I can go over there and get that melted cheese for lunch. Anyway,
Bryant Park event calendar does not say which day the thing starts.
Anyway, in the news, something historic. And usually when you say something historic happened in American politics in the current era, that means something very bad happened. And that is true once again. Something historic has happened. For the first time in the history of America's democracy, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, which is the lower chamber of our Congress, has been ousted, meaning they were kicked out.
This happens in other countries. They oust their prime minister with the no confidence votes. Basically the same thing.
It's a very different kind of thing because of the structure of the elections there and the fact that a prime minister serves at the pleasure of a coalition in the United.
I'm just saying it's.
They're very different too in that they happen commonly because there is a process around it where if the coalition falls, and then the prime minister gets booted basically automatically through a no confidence vote.
I think the biggest difference is that when that happens, you usually have elections.
Well, that's it, because the process is you need an election to restructure the parliament, and then, based on the results of the election, a new coalition has to form, and that coalition appoints a new prime minister. Like, it's a normal course of business.
It sure would be great that if this triggered an election. That would be nice.
Yep.
That would fix things maybe a little bit.
It would.
It doesn't. We have the problem where we have the no confidence vote and then no election. So you're stuck with the same people, and those people just have to figure it out.
Yep. It's even worse than that, because in America, because there's basically due to the nature of what our speaker is responsible for, because the Speaker of the House in America is paradoxically one of the most powerful political positions on earth. Because our government is designed very stupidly in this regard. So if you're not a USian, basically, the House only ever votes on things that the Speaker personally, with zero oversight, decides come to the floor to a vote, and no one can supersede them except in extremely narrow circumstances that are almost impossible to trigger and are almost...
It doesn't have to be that way, but that's the rules the House has decided for itself.
Well, the only way to change... Well, some of that is constitutional because there's some other things going on. The Speaker of the House is also in the line of succession for the presidency.
But basically, there literally is like a file cabinet that has all the bills that everyone's... Right? And like, let's say even if everyone in the whole House, all those hundreds of people... They wrote a bill, they worked together in committees, and they edited it, and even both parties are like in love with this bill. Everyone is going to vote yes. It could just sit there, and the Speaker of the House could be like, I don't feel like we're not going to have a vote for this, and it doesn't become a law.
Yep.
And it just sits there. And then if the Congress ends, right, it's like, this is the thing that really bothers me, not just about the federal House, but the federal Congress, but all the state one, most of the state ones, maybe all of them.
Oh, that they can just not finish their business and then go home on vacation.
Right. It's like there's like these sessions that end, and there's like clocks. It's like the New York State budget every year. It's like, we got to get the budget done by this date. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Shouldn't you be working like every week of the year?
Yeah. Look, if I'm at work and there's a deadline,
no vacation ever, but like, because you're still laboring, and it's difficult labor.
Yeah,
right, indeed. But like, you shouldn't. My company doesn't shut down when I'm on vacation, right? Let people take their vacations. They can proxy vote or whatever when they're away, and and then it's like, don't stop legislating ever, and don't have weird deadlines. Like, just always be legislating.
Okay, so I think I wanted to respond to like almost every few words you said, but that last one's an important one. In terms of in the House right now, this was all triggered by a budget vote based on one of those deadlines. That deadline is fucking made up by Republicans to make sure we have this crisis on a regular basis. So it's a made up deadline. They could just vote to get rid of it.
All made up.
Yeah, but this one is extra made up. Like, it is the most made up deadline.
Yep.
And it's solely because of our Republican Party. But it gets worse. The vast majority, like almost every member of the House, was more than happy to vote on a bill that just continued our current funding to get past the deadline. And it was 8 motherfuckers who didn't want to vote for it in the Republican Party. These 8 people are basically literal Nazi. Like, they are the worst people in our government.
Yeah.
So, and one of them literally looks like Butthead from Beavis and Butthead. And he is the instigator of all of this. There's so much going on here. So Everyone wanted to pass this. It's an obvious thing to pass, and passing it is only required for bullshit made-up reasons. And yet they couldn't pass it because the speaker refused to put it to a vote because the Republicans only ever want to pass bills with only Republican support because they don't want to ever, they've said this out loud, make any compromise with the Democratic Party under any circumstances ever. Either pass something with only Republican votes or never bring it to the floor. That is like the most sacrosanct rule of the Republican Party. So, the Speaker of the House, who is a dipshit, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not praising him at any point. He is a fascist. He is a horrible, he is a very bad person, McCarthy. But after he tried to get the Republicans to pass a bill on their own, and these 8 dipshits said no, he actually did the reasonable thing and brought the generic bill to the floor to say, look, we're all going to vote on this, and if Democrats vote for it, it'll pass. And guess what? All the Democrats voted for it except like one, and like 100 Republicans voted for it, and it passed immediately, and we avoided a government shutdown. The dipshit caucus then immediately removed the speaker from power, and now the U.S. House has no speaker and cannot do anything and is completely powerless. And
well, good. If it can't do anything, it can't do anything bad.
That's true, except that deadline. The bill that got past the deadline just pushed the deadline off a month. So we're going to have this exact crisis soon, and it's going to be bad.
It'd be hilarious.
Even funnier, the dipshit, the butthead guy, who is the instigator of all of this, the House was working to kick him out of the House, actually. Like, the Republicans want to kick him out of the House for ethics violations. Guess what they can't do until there's a new speaker?
Yeah.
And guess who can prevent them from voting on a new speaker?
Yeah.
It's a game of chicken where there's literally no way out of it except a coup or a huge percentage of the Republicans allying with the Democrats.
You don't need a huge percentage. You need like 4 or 5. I haven't counted. It's not
that's the fun part. There is a tricky way this could go because the Democrats are playing this very smart. Their plan is that every time there's a House vote for the new speaker, which is the only thing the House is allowed to do until they have a new speaker, the Democrats are going to vote for Hakeem Jeffries, who is an awesome dude.
What they did the last time, which is the right thing to do.
Yep. And the Republicans either have to get 100% of their members to vote for somebody, and that's not going to happen.
Or Hakeem Jeffries wins.
Or 5 of them have to vote for Hakeem Jeffries. And Jeffries would probably be more than happy to make some concessions and work with the people who decided to do that. But that would be
probably like the best Speaker of the House ever.
Oh, yeah. Hakeem Jeffries is just... Go read about, like, his deal. He is one of the best politicians in America right now. Like, Hakeem for president. Like, for real.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
He's great.
That's the easy vote.
So, despite all of this, like, this is a crisis partly because this has literally never happened. And, like, there are a lot of constitutional questions and, like, there's a lot of unclear steps on how this all is going to go down. During all of this, the temporary Speaker of the House... the person whose only job is to be the fake speaker, whose only power is to elect a new speaker.
He can't go and bring up some other laws or anything.
So you know what he did? He kicked a bunch of Democrats who he personally hates out of their offices in the Capitol to put Republicans in them.
Kind of petty, childish things that they do. That's
not
new.
Just to be a prick. And while it could be its own constitutional crisis...
Get ready to see what happens to you when you're not in charge, right?
So the Democrats who were kicked out, actually, to their credit, instead of like making a big stink and fighting a lawsuit and all this sort of nonsense, they basically just said, that's exactly what the Republicans are like. I can't believe how petty this is. Whatever. Tell me what my office is. You have to give me at least one.
Yeah, whatever.
So...
Like, all right, go. I don't care.
This is... newsworthy in that this is historic, and this is the most dysfunctional thing that has happened in the House of Representatives
it's
ever.
More dysfunctional.
Oh, yeah. It's like that Simpsons meme. The most dysfunctional thing to ever happen so far.
Whatever. At least it's entertaining. It'd be boring if everything was just normal.
I think that, I don't like that some people, especially people who claim to be centrist, which is just a coward's way of saying you're actually conservative. But I don't like people who treat horse trading politics as direct entertainment because people die based on these decisions. Like, racist governments cause racist actions that hurt people. But this is entertaining partly because the Democrats are actually using their power to its fullest extent and pointing out what a clown show the Republicans are. They're both doing the right thing with the full extent of their power.
They're doing all they can do without, without.
The only thing they could do more than they are doing right now is literally start a coup. And
everyone is doing what is within their power to do. That's what I fully expect, right? So,
it's heartening, and we'll see how this goes. So, speaking of clown shows, you want to talk about Travis Scott?
Yeah, well, so everyone knows, we talk about this frequently on Geek Nights, right? That, even though we hate capitalism, there is a reality in this world that some things have necessarily, not unnecessary. We hate it when it's unnecessary and false scarcity, right? Artificial scarcity. But some things are literally scarce, right? And the easiest example to go to that a lot of people are, encounter in their lives are tickets to concerts and other such venues, because the event happens once. We're not going to play World Series Game 4 several times so that everyone can see it, right? It's like, it's happening once. There are only so many seats in the stadium. That's it.
Yep.
Right?
You can't just magically make more appear. There's even a culture book about that. You didn't read this one, but that culture book has an event where a supernova is going to happen. And there's a limited radius where people can see it directly with their own eyes. And the culture accidentally reinvents money just for the sole purpose of people being able to go to this show, because it'll literally only ever happen once.
Yep, exactly. So, people get mad because what happens is the people who run concerts and other events sell tickets at too low a price, even though the demand exceeds the supply.
Now, too low by economic standards. We're not talking about society.
Yes.
Like, we're not talking about whether or not this is good or evil or whatever.
When you do that, inevitably, there's nothing you can do about this, is that somebody will buy the tickets and sell them for a higher price and basically make a margin on them.
This is called arbitrage. If Scott buys something for $20 that Rim is willing to buy for $50, Scott can sell it to Rim for $50 and make a profit. And that is expected. That is like mechanism design 101, that will happen.
The only way to avoid this, which people, I guess, would also be upset about, would be if the original ticket price was the highest price the market would pay, in which case people would be mad because like Taylor Swift tickets would be like $5,000, $10,000, right? And, like on the face value, and people wouldn't go for that, right?
We talk about when MagFest like sells out. If they just sold MagFest at the maximum price that would sell out MagFest at all the hotels, I would pay several $100s to go to a MagFest, but not everyone can afford that, but that's what the price would be.
Right. Regardless, so the problem is because of this scenario, a lot of people get into this business of being ticket brokers and using bots and other various means to scoop up tickets, right? And then resell them and make a profit. Okay, we know all that story. Here's an additional story, right? People in the United States and around the world have credit cards. And when you pay for something with a credit card, the person you bought something from has to pay a fee, the merchant's fee.
Yep.
All right. And that merchant's fee goes to the bank, right? If it's like a Chase Bank credit card, Chase gets some money. If it's a Visa credit card, Visa gets some money. And to encourage you, right? Because that's where they make all their money, is from you swiping their credit card, right? They get the merchant, the person you swiped at, pays them. They want you to use that credit card all the fucking time.
Yep. I mean, there's a reason why I am very willing to be the one who swipes my credit card when I rent a big Airbnb for all our friends.
Swiping credit card, right? And so when you swipe your credit card, they encourage you to do this by sharing some of that with you, right? So basically, every time you swipe your credit card at any business or all right, that person who runs that business pays MasterCard or whoever the fuck, and then they in turn pay you back some of the money with rewards. And the only person who gets screwed by credit cards are businesses that accept credit cards.
Yep. I got status on an airline solely from one swipe when I rented that beach house for everybody.
Right. It's like airlines make more of their money from people swiping airline credit cards all around the world than they do from selling plane tickets. Right. Because they're getting a trickle in of all those little bits of money from all these swipes everywhere, and those swipes turn into points, and as long as the points aren't spent, which a lot of them aren't, they just sit in a pile of money like a bank. And That's where all the wealth of airlines is, not in selling plane tickets. Anyway, so here's the thing. If you are someone who has a credit card, if you knew for certain, absolute certain, that you could buy something and then resell the something at or higher than the price you bought it for, even if you had no interest in that something. So if I knew for certain that I could buy a Taylor Swift concert ticket and resell it for more than I paid, which I do.
Actually, if you could even resell it for as low as slightly less than you paid, you'd still break even.
Right, but that's besides the point, right? If I know that I can buy a Taylor Swift concert ticket with my credit card and then sell it and at the same price or greater or slightly less, like Rim said, right? Then I will profit because even though I didn't keep the ticket and I didn't make any money on the arbitrage, I got points for using my credit card. So there is a community of people online who basically are trying to constantly max out, get lots of credit cards, max them out, but then max them out and by buying things that they then resell. And so basically they can always pay off their credit card in full. They didn't actually lose any money, but they got shit tons of points and rewards and cash back. And they're profiting just by buying things and selling things that they don't even fucking want, right? And so this is a perfect storm because concert tickets set up systems to try to stop bots, but individual people with credit cards, legitimate actual people, not bots, not right? If you can organize those people and say, hey, I'm putting the word out, anyone out there who has a credit card, if you buy Taylor Swift tickets, I will buy them from you at like a 10% markup, guaranteed, I swear, right? If you do this, you'll get credit card points. Let's all team up and I'll be the one to sell all the tickets. You won't have to take the risk of trying to find a buyer, right? I'm guaranteeing you this markup, right? And then I'll take on the risk of finding actual buyers.
Yep. And that is how capital markets arbitrage works, is a series of steps like this where someone assumes a risk and then someone else basically underwrites that risk by saying, no, I'll assume that risk. And everyone's taking a piece along the way.
So there's a company that did exactly that. They would put out the word and they would say, hey, all you people who want to max out your credit cards and get points, buy this and I will buy it from you, right? Do it now. And so people would go bought the tickets. They sold it to the company. It worked. Those people got credit card points. That company got tickets. They sold the tickets. They made money. It worked. It actually worked. It's, people don't like it, but that was happening. It's a thing. There's the only
I can't even actually argue that it's particularly unethical.
I'm just saying, that's the thing that's happened. So here's the funny part, right? That risk was never eliminated, right? You think that sounds like the least risky thing ever. Of course, you can resell the Taylor Swift tickets, right? Well, the company said, all right, let's do the Travis Scott tickets.
Now, you might remember there's an important piece of information. Travis Scott, who
he's incredibly popular. He's like insane popular.
Yep. Right? But he had a concert in 2021 that due to poor crowd control and fucked up, there's a whole report on who was responsible for this. 10 people were killed by a massive crowd crush.
Yep, that's true. But regardless, this guy is still insanely popular. He's chart-topping, streaming, right? Big popular artist. You got to imagine his shows are going to sell out, and the demand will be higher than the supply. So the company says, all right, everybody, go buy the tickets with your credit cards. And guess what happened? Uh-oh. The demand, we don't know why. It could be the reason Rim suggested. People are afraid of dying. It could be that he's not as popular now. Who knows? But the demand was not there. And the company that assumed the risk cannot resell the tickets.
People are buying good tickets for as low as $14 on StubHub right now.
Right. So basically, people bought the tickets with their credit cards, and some of them were not able to get paid back from the company that's centralizing all this. And now people trying to max out their credit cards got hosed. And then the company that told everyone to max out their credit cards is also getting hosed, sitting on a pile of tickets that they can't sell for even face value because no one wants to go to the concert. And the winner in this case would be Travis Scott, who sold out. He sold out his concert Whereas if there hadn't been people trying to arbitrage, he would not have sold out his concert and made less money. So he's very happy about this whole situation, even though his concert won't be that crowded, but his concert wouldn't have been crowded anyway. Even if this didn't happen, his concert still would have had the same audience, basically.
And his concert might now actually get more crowded if people can buy tickets for $14.
Yeah, more people might actually come now that the prices are tanked. But all the people trying to do the scam have gotten screwed, which is just kind of hilarious.
Oh, yeah, because that is, capitalism, I guess, as a professional in capitalism, based on my day job, I would say that one of the most important controls on a capitalist system, one that the lack of such controls is one of the main reasons why capitalism tends to hurt people so badly and concentrate wealth so profoundly, is that if you are making a profit and all you are providing to make that profit is an assumption of risk, then if the risk comes to pass, you must get fucked. Otherwise, you are making a profit for nothing. So these people getting fucked is good by most measures, by moral measures, by capitalist measures. Capitalism would be less cruel if more people who were only paid by assuming risk got fucked more often by that risk.
Yep, the bad parts of capitalism, it's usually a situation where people fucked around and did not find out, or someone made someone else find out when they're the ones who fucked around.
Yep.
Right? Like all the banks that got bailed out instead of when they should have gone to prison.
Or big brain theory, situations like the existence of 401ks, which was a big part of why pensions went away, where that basically guarantees that anyone who makes money is throwing money into the stock market, thus perpetuating a cycle of the number has to always go up.
Yep. Anyway, this is just a hilarious situation, and it's a topic that we talk about often, and I'm sure we will talk about again, but it's a new twist. But it does make me think, though, that like the credit card part of it is not really the worst idea. And if you do come across something where you are absolutely certain, like you have to be really certain, right?
Yeah,
You can't
like
be,
a Taylor Swift
90%.
concert.
Right. If you're only 90%, that's not good enough, right?
I mean, remember those guys who pooled in the $10,000 to bet on a cricket match while it was going and the team was up by like 100 and then they lost?
Right. It's like you got to be so certain that the thing you are buying is going to be able to be resold at or at least at the value you paid. If you're that certain of that, even if it's a thing you don't want, if the value of it is high enough, it may be worth it to buy it with your credit card and then resell it just to get points. And it's like, if that doesn't take too much effort, that it's, worth your time, maybe do it, right? It's better than casino. It's probably less risky than the stock market. If the biggest if you really have that certainty, like so certain, we're talking like Super Bowl tickets certain.
Yeah.
Like, you can resell them, right?
Yep.
No question.
But I mean, even a playoff game at MSG might not necessarily work out if the team
it might not. No, it has to be really. But it's like even a Super Bowl can get canceled. There's always a risk. But I think Super Bowl canceled is a less risk than Anyway,
all right, put a little marker. But anyway, things of the day. So a long time ago, like a decade or more ago, I had a thing of the day that was like an AMV that implied that Speed Racer was actually a bad person who hurt people. And
Speed Racer is a bad person who hurts people and has monkey labor. And monkey labor.
I mean, how many people
in his employ?
There are so many episodes of Speed Racer where he just rams someone off the road and the car explodes, and no one seems to give a shit.
Guns that shoot people, and it's like.
But I have found an entire corner of the internet of people who basically just make long-form, relatively high production value videos, really highlighting the violence and the evil of Speed Racer, and this is the best of them that I have seen.
He's really evil.
Yeah.
Cars.
This is titled Speed Racer's Vehicle of Violence.
All right. Well, as my news suggested, right? We on Geek Nights love to discuss gambling and how you shouldn't do it ever. Even though we'll, talk about it constantly.
I'm playing this gambling game right now while we talk.
Yeah. And one of the gamblings that you should never, ever, ever do under any circumstance is video poker. Video poker is like one of the worst things you can put money into. Basically, like it's because it has this illusion that you have some sort of control or skill involved, right? Because you're actually deciding to hold cards and draw other cards, right? But a video poker machine is just a slot machine in disguise.
Yep.
And the payouts are terrible.
Well, you know what it is? It's a slot machine where you can't be better at it with skill, but if you are very stupid, you will somehow be worse at it.
Yeah, you can.
Imagine a slot machine where if you pull the lever too slow, you're less likely to win. That's what video poker is.
Yeah, video poker is just avoid it at all costs. But video poker, the game, I guess, right? If you take away the real money part of it, is just sort of this aesthetic thing, right? Like sitting at a video poker machine. It's sort of a unique kind of machine with a unique display and art style and sounds, and it's this kind of experience just playing it. So somebody, it's kind of awesome, they made this classic video poker on a website. So you go to this website and just like this perfect like scan line CRT looking like video poker just loads, and you can play it with, they give you $25. It's just the number 25 is on the screen, right? And you could just play, and if you run out of money, you can reload and go back to $25. It's just a video poker clone, basically, but it's just the feeling of playing it.
The sound effects it makes are real good.
Yeah, it's just on the money, and if you have any urge to play video poker,
I won $5.
Hooray! Yeah, that's about all you're gonna win.
Yeah.
Just play this, and you can sort of get all of the good parts. Whatever good parts video poker has are here, and the guaranteed you're gonna lose your money part is not here because it's free.
Yeah. All right. In the meta moment, the GeekNights Book Club book, The Murderbot Diary. Once the next one comes out, we'll read that, and then we'll give you guys a few weeks to read it, and then we'll do a show on it. I am 5 Murderbots in.
Mm-hmm. I am all the Murderbots in.
Yep, you've gotten a little more Murderbot than me. They're
literally all of it, except for what's going to be published very soon.
They are very, very fast reads. Otherwise, we're going to be at PAX with not one, but 2 panels. Well, 2 events, and it looks like the schedule just got published, so I'll make a post about it now.
But only one of our events is on the schedule.
Oh, I guess the Learn and Play schedule is not published yet.
No,
anyway.
That is the event. I think the other one is not on the schedule.
Oh, there you go, because we're definitely doing 2. We are doing on one day, I had the note up, I got to post later. Anyway, one of the days, we are doing a brand new panel, Mastering Game Mechanics, Worker Placement. Rim and Scott talking about nothing but worker placement mechanics for 59 minutes. It's going to be glorious. And then second,
not on the official schedule yet.
We are doing a Learn and Play and Win. We're going to teach you all how to be good at Whist, Hearts, and Wizard.
That is on the schedule. That is on the PAX website.
It's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to that one. We're not going to actually play Whist. We're going to do one hand of Whist with everyone because Whist is not worth playing. It's basically just how to learn to do trick taking. Mm-hmm. But we will teach Whist. Whist is a pretty simple game.
Yep.
Any other meta? I guess we could talk about the website.
We're going to attempt to launch the new GeekNights website on Saturday, October... this is 2 days from now. 7th. We'll see how that goes. It might fail. We could revert. You're playing. Rim is obsessed with this new noise he found.
That new noise I found is the announcement sound anytime I join a Discord voice chat now.
Yeah, mine is much better than that.
I made it as long as possible to be as annoying as possible.
Yeah, see, mine is this one.
That's a real good one.
That's as good as it gets. I couldn't think of anything better. Anyway.
It's the elephant sound.
That's right. I'm coming in like an elephant. A spider elephant. Elephant bit by a radioactive spider. Anyway. Yeah. So yeah, it might work. It might not. You might like it. You might not like it. That's tough cookies. We like it. We're going with it.
Yep.
It does enough that it can replace the current website. We're going to continue to work on it because the code is so updated. It's actually very easy to work on and update this website since the code isn't 10 plus years old, right? It's modern. It auto deploys all kinds of fancy shit. And that code will be on GitHub, and you can send us pull requests or whatever and help work on it for no money if that's what you want to do. And yeah, that's exciting. Finally, we talked so long and shit talking, but no, it's going to be for real. And if there's any, you know, you can even just send suggestions in the GitHub issues if you want, you know.
Yeah. And from there, we can start once we've got it live and all the kinks are ironed out, that's when we can start to do some new stuff. We can dig into the hopper, the GeekNights hopper. Yeah, you know, right. We kept talking about it, but we never actually did it. We didn't add the new bit we were talking about at the end of the show.
I mean, you know, we talk about a lot of things that we don't.
We do talk about a lot of things. All right.
And sometimes we do them, like.
And our worker placement panel is on, I actually pulled it up from this internal, Saturday, 2:30 p.m. in the Crab God Theater.
All right, let me see.
Feel free to announce it to the world. It is by no means a secret.
I see. The Crab God Theater is not yet listed in the list of locations. So.
I wonder what other secrets the Crab God is hiding from us.
Yeah.
All right. So, if we've on Geek Nights, we've reviewed things like video games. We've reviewed conventions. We've reviewed concerts. I don't see why we can't review an Applefest that we went to upstate.
So I've been to this Applefest before. New York is the Empire State. And apples are sort of our thing. There's a lot of fucking apple orchards here.
Yep.
You know, apple season.
Like if you live out of the U.S. and I feel like a lot of people who live outside of the U.S. at least have this impression that Americans, there's something with them and apples because apples are very
New York is the Big Apple. Right?
Well,
it's like
yep. Johnny Appleseed is a folk hero in America, even though the Disney movie is very wrong about what he was doing. Spoilers, he was making fucking apple whiskey. He was making alcohol. He was not making apple fritters or apple pies.
Yeah. But, places have their local, crops, right? You go to Columbia, get some coffee, go to New York, get some apples. So it's apple season, and there's a town in New York State. It's not part of New York City. It's New York State called Warwick. And it's a cute little quaint country home kind of town.
It's about an hour north of the city, unless there's typical traffic, in which case it's a 2.5 hour.
It's just north of New Jersey and Pennsylvania, a little bit west and a little bit north, right?
Yep. Emily and I got some family out there.
Yeah, and that place is all about apples. There are many apple orchards in short range of the little town of Warwick. And so every year they have an apple festival, right? That Apple Festival, I think, might have been canceled during the dark times, but I went to it once before.
I had been to it 0 times before because relatives, the same relatives we met when we went up there, and we asked them this past weekend, hey, do you want to meet us there? And their response was, quote, fuck no, that's a crowded nightmare.
Well, I know you've been to Warwick, but you didn't go to the Apple Festival.
Nope, I have never been to the Apple Fest before because in the past, I had the perception that is extremely crowded.
It is crowded, yes. So we went to the Apple Festival again, a second time, because I needed some fucking apples.
Yep.
It was apple season was coming to an end. And usually you can go to the Apple Festival and then go to a nearby orchard, load up on apple, donuts, and cider, and then go home. And that's a lovely day on the weekend.
You want to talk about that first? Because I was really looking forward to both of these aspects of this trip. And after we're at the Apple Fest, and we'll review it in a moment, good old time, we decide, let's go to an orchard. And we look and we figure out which one to go to. And we start driving.
There's a lot of different orchards, and all the orchards are different, right?
Yep.
Some of them have tons of apples, but not too many exciting varieties. Some of them specialize in having lots of varieties, but there's not a lot of, they're all different. Some of them special. One of them's got this pizza. One of them is people are just partying out in the orchard, bringing out folding tables and letting their kids run wild. And some of them, it's no, people are there for picking, right? To get, because they got to go make some apple shit, right? And they don't let you hang out in the orchard and do other stuff, right? You got to hang out in their, hanging out area, right?
Yeah.
So each orchard has a different kind of specialty that they, that's their thing to separate themselves from the competition.
Yep, and so we pick one, the one that we wanted to go to, and we
picked was one I've been to before twice. And it's a really happening one.
Yep, I'm 90% sure I've been to that one too. I guess the line of cars to get into this orchard, however long you think I'm gonna say, put it up in order of magnitude. It was blocking traffic so far that we weren't sure if we could even get back toward the other side of where this orchard was to go to a different one.
it was hard to tell because it's like people are in line on a 2-lane road but it's not one way. So it's like, yeah, everyone's lined up. And it's like, if you just wanted to continue down that road and go straight and not turn into the orchard, you had to just wait in this line of cars that were all turning right into the orchard.
Yep, double yellow line. You can't pass there safely or legally.
Yeah, it's like, now there was a way to escape from that thanks to Google Maps got us out of there.
Yep,
but,
we took a serpentine path through a subdivision.
In the same direction as those cars and you were beyond the turn, it's like you couldn't get it. It's like I thought about trying to pull a scam where it's like, well, if we're on the side road trying to pull in and make a left, someone's going to let us in eventually, right? We're not just going to sit there for infinity.
I do think we would have sat there for infinity unless I took aggressive driving actions, the likes of which I am not personally willing to do.
Yeah, so it's like, they have to let someone cut in line eventually. And I bet you could lie and be like, no, I'm going to go straight. I'm going to go, and then not.
Here's the problem, though. Let's say we did. We cut in line. Where we would have cut in, I think the line was already over a mile long of cars.
It was still very, very far.
So, at the point where we would have had to go into the orchard, now the person who we told that we are just passing through would then see that we have in fact turned into the orchard, and they are now right behind us in stopped traffic, and it's New York. They might have a gun.
Fight me, bro. No. Yeah, but I mean, on the one hand, the line was really long, but on the other hand, it was a car line, and the thing you have to remember about a car line is that it's much longer than it appears to be because most of the space in the line is taken up by a car.
True.
The actual number of people in that line could have been like 100. Like 100 people waiting in line, it takes up almost no room. 100 people in cars waiting in line is as long as 100 cars.
But
as long as,
based on looking at that line, it did not appear that it had moved any appreciable amount at any point.
Well, no. See, that's the thing. Is like if we could have physically gotten to the orchard, we would have been fine, right? But because there's plenty of room for people at the orchard, parking was the reason for the line.
Even the orchard we ended up going to, we pull in, and the parking guy is like standing there, and he basically is like, "Yeah, you're fucked. There's nowhere to park. You should just drive all the way in and turn around and get out." And we did park, and it was fine. The guy was just really harried, and I think he was just trying to get people to turn around.
I never saw someone who didn't want customers, right? The other orchard with the mega line, this orchard we went to didn't have a mega line.
Nope.
The one that did have the mega line, they were turning people away. They were like, yeah, keep this mega line going. Give her that money.
I don't believe most of the people in that line, based on how long it looked like it was, and especially when I looked at Google and it showed a red line going off miles and miles and miles down that road, I don't think most of those people could have even gotten into the orchard before it closed at 5.
Who knows?
Because we bailed. We're not stupid. We went to a different orchard.
Yeah. An orchard further away from the festival, just like a restaurant further away from the convention, has less.
Way less. We basically just got right in. Even despite the dire warnings of the parking lot attendant, we got right in. We got our
it was a not as good orchard.
Yeah, there seems like that orchard's main deal was apple alcohol, which fine, like I'm here for that.
If you were interested in apple alcohol, the orchard we went to would have been excellent, I assume.
Except the problem is, I was driving us, so it's not like I could partake of the apple alcohol.
You could have bought some to take home.
Could have, but I would have want to hang out in the orchard and drink the apple alcohol. But also, inside of this orchard, there weren't lines to do most things, and there wasn't even a big line for the donuts. It's just they started selling the donuts at a specific time, and Scott got into near the front of that line, so we were good there. The line to get the apple poison was so long that I basically couldn't, so I wouldn't have bothered even.
The donuts were not, they were fine, but they were not the best.
Yeah, donuts. I mean, even a bad cider donut is still good, and those were I'd say B level cider donuts, which is still great. Like I will eat 12 B level cider donuts. I have no complaints.
Sure. Now, there is also Fishkill Farms, which is in Fishkill, New York, up near where we used to live in Beacon. And that farm, the way they solve their problem is they make you buy apple picking tickets in advance, and they sell out, right? So you could use some arbitrage and sell your apple picking tickets.
I think that is going to be more and more prevalent in the U.S. in general, because something I've noticed post-COVID, things that used to be crowded but not like terminally crowded are way more crowded lately, and I think it's partly people who were stuck inside for 3 years kind of just going apeshit and doing stuff. Which
there are many reasons for
Yep.
these sorts of things.
But
Anyway, the Apple Festival.
yeah, so the Apple Festival is about the scale of the equivalent non-Apple festival called Farm City Week that I used to go to every year as a kid in Michigan. And I haven't been to a festival like that in a long time, so I was kind of here for it.
It's basically like the whole town is taken over, right? By this Apple Festival. Even businesses like that are not directly connected to the Apple Festival and are thus cut off from most of the foot traffic are still putting stuff out and setting up tents and
in every direction. Like in the parking lot of the CVS, there was like a giant festival going on under a tent. Like
right, it's like none of those things are on the official festival map or are part of the festival, technically, but like every single business that was within range of the festival was getting involved somehow and was effectively part of the festival because, they got something going on. They're trying to, everyone's just, it's like, shit, tons of people are coming to our town. We're going to squeeze every last drop of money out of them that we can. Right?
So I wonder how many people attend this thing because
a lot. Thousands.
Yeah, I wonder how many. Let's see. Attendance at
it's gonna be thousands, right?
I could guess 10,000 turnstile. A lot of people roll in, do a thing, leave, and New York City people are all coming. New York, Warwick, Applefest. What is the estimate? It's the largest Apple festival. They don't give me a number. It was a lot of people. The population of this entire town is only 6,000 people.
Yeah.
So I feel like a multiple of this town might have showed up for the day, or at least for a portion of the festival. But, in terms of the poisonous aspects of cars in America, there is no way to get to this town except by car. And
Correct.
There is not enough parking even for the people who live in this town, let alone thousands and thousands and thousands of New York City folk all driving up to go to this Apple Festival. So they set up gigantic parking lots on the edge of town and a constant line of school buses taking people from their cars to the festival.
Yep, it's very intelligent of them. It's
Yeah.
like, well, we need a parking lot, but we only need it once a year. And no one's going to school on fucking Saturday, even if school season has started.
And the school, because everyone gets to the school in cars, has a massive parking lot.
Correct. So it's like they just use the school's parking lot and they bus people to the festival and they charge $10 for it. And yeah, that's just smart. And I think that's actually something that bothers me a lot that I see even in New York City is that, for example, you have a school in New York City that has many facilities, lots of facilities that are all paid for and are run by the Department of Education. But those are facilities, even in the summer when they are not in use at all, right? Or at night when they are not in use at all by any school and there's no students there, are basically off limits. Even though they are public property, no other members of the public can make any use of them because it's only for school. And in the summer, you have like a huge field that's just empty and unused that could be like temporarily handed over to the Parks Department.
Yeah.
And if somebody wanted to put the effort in, but in a small town, right, where there's less resources to manage and there aren't so many separate departments, right, managing everything, it's like, yeah, we can just use our school building for fucking everything. That we put a lot of the town's money into building this building.
Okay, I found a number. The Warwick Applefest claims 30,000 people go on average. 30,000? So many times the population of the entire town.
Yep. So yeah, you go there and what do they have? Obviously, delicious foods of many, many varieties.
Yep.
Even in New York City, right? Obviously, if you take all the food of New York City, the Apple Festival can't compete, right?
No.
But there is in New York City the street fair. There is a street fair that basically is always in existence. It just moves constantly, and it has.
It's like the robot carnival.
Yeah, it has mostly the same vendors, but not always. But it basically every different weekend day, holiday. There's a website that tells you exactly where it's going to be. But even if you don't check that website, if you just bike around New York City, you're likely to run into it if it's not a weekday.
Every now and then, it's near my office, and I walk outside, and I bump into it, and guess where I eat lunch?
Yeah, it's in my neighborhood frequently. But the food, it has, Carney Festival food. the Warwick Apple Festival food is better than the New York street fair food.
Absolutely better.
By a lot. So,
in fact, my only regret is that I did not eat more of the food, but I am 41 years old and my stomach can only hold so much food.
The problem is it's like I really, really want to try all the different foods at the festival. But unlike, say, the night market, in the night market, it's like everyone's making small dishes for like $5 each. You can get a lot of them and you can share them. If you go to the Apple Festival and you don't have a lot of people with you, it's like you get one thing from one, cart. And it's like $10 or more, and they give you a pile of food. And it's like, I guess
the amount of Polish food they handed me when I ordered one plate of Polish food that is intended for one person was
that was 3 people of food.
That was staggering. That was a terrifying amount of food.
It's like, don't you want me to give more money to? It's like you should be giving out less food.
If you had given me a third of the food on that plate, it still would have been too much for me to eat for the same price, and I would not have complained.
And you would have gone to some other booth and also patronized them as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, lots of delicious foods. You can get donuts, you can get pies, you can get apple poison, you can get cookies, you can get Polish food, you can get barbecue, fucking everything.
There's also a lot of quaint small town charm vending, but it seems to be almost exclusively, I'm going to say, I don't mean this uncharitably, low tier arts and crafts.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Or candles.
Yep. Well, anytime you go to any craft fair, including the every weekend New York street fair, any kind of fair, the things you will always see a lot of are people who make candles, soap, jewelry. Those are the big. Pottery. Those are the big 4.
Now, the pottery was some of the better pottery I've seen at a festival like this. That was some very high quality pottery.
Varies wildly, but like those are the 4 things you're gonna see the most frequently. There's like the most, small time, independent little crafty people.
How many candles can people burn? If I have a bar of soap, it lasts like 2 or 3 months.
People I think the other thing is you got to think. People have like big houses, right? Not like us.
Oh, and they have a closet full of soap.
Well, if they got a lot of bathrooms, right? You ever go into like some suburban house?
And they got the unused bathroom.
There's like some bathroom that like is not used too often, and you go in there because you're a guest and it's a convenient spot, and you go in there and they always have a weird soap in there. It's like, should I use this soap or is it a decorative soap?
My aunt literally got mad at us when I was a kid once because we used the bathroom that nobody uses that had the fancy towels and the fancy soap in it, and we used the soap that was supposed to be decorative. That was a long time ago. But the candles too, it takes a long time to burn a candle down to nothing. And yet candles seem to be the hottest commodity at this festival.
Well, I think people love to make candles, and also, you can make a candle, even if you are just making candles, you can come up with like a smell that isn't exactly like anyone else's candle, right? Because there's so much variety you can do. So even if you're small time in the candle game, you can get, you might be able to make a sale if someone comes along and they're like, wow, I never seen, that particular smell.
Well, plus, it's way easy to make soy candles in the year 2023, without a lot of skills and equipment compared to more traditional kinds of candles. And what I did not see were any traditional candles. It was only modern, quick to make soy candles.
Yep. And the other thing is that there are people out there who literally are burning at least one candle just fucking all the time.
That is true. That is not me, but I know you're out there.
There are candle people out there who just have a candle going always.
Yep.
And so
I like a candle occasionally, but also if a candle's burning, I got to turn off all the air filters because all the air filters are like, what the fuck? Everyone's going to die. 999.
Yeah. I mean, maybe burning a candle all the time isn't that good for you. Who knows?
Probably not.
Anyway. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I look at all these crafts and some of them are meh, and some of them it's like, ooh, look at that. But I end up not buying basically anything.
Yep. You know what though, is it's about the same thing that I do in artist alleys at conventions. The odds of me buying something at an artist alley in a convention are effectively zero. You're going to see me buy a lottery ticket more often than I buy anything at an artist alley. But I really like to look around an artist alley. I'll spend all day looking at every single booth to see what their deal is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing. I like it's a good time to walk around. I'm not too jaded as a fancy pants rich New York podcast dude to head upstate and go to a quaint town festival and mooch around for a few hours.
No. So there's two other things about the festival. One of them is that since it sort of sprawls over the whole town and not just this main area, there's one like road that is basically they remove the cars from the road because it connects like the main festival area from the town park, which has like a pond. And so there's a road that connects them. They basically block that road so that people can walk between the two locations, right? And everyone who lives along that road is setting up booths and shit. Even people who just live there are putting, like, that's the day they come out with their tag sale trying to sell their shit, right? It's like everyone is getting in on, the churches on that road are like getting in on it, setting up booths, right? It's like they're all like, woo! People are foot traffic is going to be here today. Therefore, this residential road is now a commercial road. Let's go.
The thing is, imagine how cool that town would be if that road just didn't have cars on it.
Well, I'm just saying, but it's like, it's really cool to like sort of imagine if everyone on the street you live on, one day, just everyone goes up and sets a booth up outside their house, and you have like not just
that actually used to happen when I was a kid. I lived in Detroit. So we had a neighborhood tag sale day where everyone did their garage sales on the same day. So it became like a thing.
Okay, garage.
But we also had a couple, every year we had one or two basically like block parties where every house put a booth with something going on in front of their house. Like some houses did an arts and crafts thing. Some houses would do like a haunted house thing. Some houses would just have food that was free. Some houses would do a garage sale. Some people would sell stuff. But every house like did a thing on this day for this like local block party festival.
Mm-hmm. And the last thing I want to say, which will probably make someone mad at me, but whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's just the truth that I can't deny, right?
I can't wait to hear what you have to say because I actually don't know.
So the Apple Festival has many live musical performances, which is great. That's terrific, right? They were like, there's way more than you think. Like the park has one, then the church has one. It's like a random fiddling guy on the main street, and then there's at the gazebo. There's another performance.
The fiddling guy was better than the average fiddler I hear in New York. On the street.
It could actually fiddle. People were jigging.
Yeah.
Doing a jig.
Right? I jigged a little walking past him. I could not help. It was too powerful, the jig.
Yeah. They had a person on a horse in a headless horseman costume you could photo with, right?
It was an S-tier beautiful horse, too. Like, this was a particularly good-looking horse.
Yeah, there was a rock band that was in the park by the pond that was pretty good, actually. I didn't listen to every performance and hang around all day.
Yeah.
But the one when we first arrived and we got off the school bus after at the parking lot, there were clearly people who were either community theater or high school theater drama club people singing show tunes, right? Now, they were quite good singers, right? They could sing about 10,000 times better than I can, I'd say.
About 20,000 times better than I can.
Yeah, right. It's like, they were singing the show tunes properly. They had talents and skills, and their performance was enjoyable. And I was not upset that they were there. We ate the Polish food in their vicinity to hear them. It was very nice. However,
we live in New York.
However, I live in New York, right? And it made me realize it was like riding the small roller coaster after riding only the big roller coaster, right? I had become spoiled and taken for granted that like the only shows I've been to in recent years are Metropolitan Opera, actual Broadway theater, right? Radio City Music, right? It's like touring bands that are huge.
Yeah,
right?
Like when we go see a jazz band, we see it at Lincoln Center.
Right. It's like I've been spoiled living in New York City, basically only feasting on the foie gras of music.
See, now you can't bitch when I ever talk about Cedar Point, because once you've been there, like no other roller coaster park is even like they're fine roller coasters, but they're beneath the scale of notice to someone who has even been to Cedar Point.
Right, but it's like I had forgotten, right, the difference, right? And so it provided this stark reminder that like, yeah, you went to the opera and it sounded like someone was playing a CD, but even better somehow. And it's like, whereas this had a little bit of that karaoke sound in it, right?
Yep.
That wasn't so great. And it's like, it didn't ruin it, but it's just like you could tell the difference, right, between the S tier that you had and the maybe A or B plus tier that you're having now. And it reminded me, oh, right, I am very privileged to live in New York City and enjoy the finest that the world has to offer. There is a difference. It's not the same.
Yep. And we can enjoy that finest riding a few stops on a subway
right.
instead of driving in 2 hours north.
But it was valuable because, in fact, I'm going to the opera a week from Saturday, right?
All right.
So I will not take for granted, right, the difference between rubbing, I guess, honey on my ears and just raw sugar.
Yeah. But I'd say the Warwick Applefest is a perfectly fine, fun town festival. I like town festivals. I like that kind of thing. I like that vibe. I like seeing a community of people like putting on a thing and being proud of it. Like I enjoy everything about that. My only worry is that it's going to only get more crowded because Warwick can't get bigger, yet New York City's influence grows ever more.
Well, I mean, they could block off more of their roads and expand, right, the festival that way.
They could.
So yeah, would I go back to the Warwick Apple Festival? Yes. Would I go every year and like make a point of it? No. Right? It's
if we go back next year, I want to try to like bring all our people and like.
Yeah. I think what I'm going to do next year is I'm going to go back to the Fishkill Orchard. Where you make an appointment because they have the top tier donut.
Yeah, I could use I like the donuts we got, but I could use an S tier